it's me, Erin. Thanks for joining us on the More Love podcast. Do not tell Rebecca, but this podcast is about empathy. She likes people to think she's dead inside, but the truth is she's a big-time feeler who has truly helped me uncover that empathy is my superpower. Oh, here she comes.
Hey, bestie.
Hi, love.
What are you doing?
Oh, just getting ready to host a podcast.
A podcast? About what?
Life. Our life as best friends who are more like sisters.
Ah, yay! I love us, and I can't wait to share our stories with the world.
Especially the ones that involve us pushing each other, right? To be our most authentic selves.
Oh, man. Okay.
My palms are completely sweaty.
Why?
My heart is racing 400 miles per hour.
Why?
I feel like I might need to run to the restroom.
Okay. So I got to take over? This is not good. Right out of the gate.
What just happened there with poor Scott and what you put poor Scott through has me in a tizzy. Mm-hmm. And if this is not the epitome of who we are as people, there will never be a better example. So I would like to start today's show with what just happened there. Okay, so we come in, right? I just want to say Scott is the best.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Scott always has all the things out for us.
I mean,
right? He has the water. Mm-hmm. You say to him, Scott, I'd like to be next to Erin because I'd like to do her nails. I'd like to have my little spot next to. And so does Scott have that set up for you? He sure does.
I know, but I didn't check with you to make sure it was okay to do your nails.
Right.
I was going to surprise you. And then
Yeah. And then I was like, I have a nail appointment on Friday already.
Right.
And you're like, it's fine. It's fine. Right. So we get here. Mm-hmm. We're now sitting next to each other. All the angles are not okay.
I know.
It is not okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so I say out loud, these angles are not okay. And Scott, being as wonderful as Scott is like, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to get you your different angles. At that moment, poor Scott is on a roller coaster with these cameras.
I know.
And I am getting overly, I swear to God, if you felt my palms right now, you would be like, she just jumped in a swimming pool, right? And you, the whole time, I need to paint this picture for people who are not watching this on the video. Right now, you're sitting here with your black long skirt on. Mm-hmm. You are wearing bright pink cowboy boots up to your knees. Mm-hmm. You have a shirt on that has a skull with some flowers coming out of it. And it says, I like murder shows, comfy clothes, and maybe 3 people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's what your shirt says.
But there's a story behind that shirt.
Have your rose gold earphones on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as Scott is running around acting as if he just wants us to be so happy because he cares so much about us. I know. Right?
Well, you also made a demand that the angles are bad.
Well, I just mentioned that the angles were bad. But you're over here, sitting here like you are in the nail salon. Yeah. Just looking at your phone, hanging out.
I paid a bill.
Scott is losing his mind. Scott is beside himself. I'm like, okay, how do I help Scott? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to help move the camera. What can I do? Does Scott need some water? I need to help make sure Scott's okay. How's his energy? Is his energy good? It's not good right now, but that's because he's not mad at us. He just wants this to be so good for us, right? And I swear to God, you're over here scrolling the TikToks.
No, I paid a bill.
You paid a bill.
I did.
Even better.
I paid it.
Even better. You're over here paying a bill, eating your bagel and drinking whatever you got from the Dunkin' Donuts. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I cannot. And so then it's like, okay, well, here comes the intro music. Time to start. And I'm like, I'm not ready. I need to talk about what just happened there because you owe Scott a lollipop or some Smarties or a Pepsi or something because he is... That is not okay. What is that?
It's a box of wine.
You brought some wine.
I don't know what you're going to make me talk about today.
I cannot. You brought a box
Scott,
of wine.
you want some wine?
No, thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it, though.
Do you want a lollipop, Scott?
I don't have that.
Can we just take a
I
moment?
could do a manicure.
Could we just say something really nice about Scott? Let's take
it's
a
all in a
moment.
day's work, ladies. It's all in a
Gosh,
day's work.
Scott.
I know.
Scott, I do have a question for you.
Sure.
Is your wife high maintenance?
Geez, that's a really tough question to answer.
On the air or just answer in general?
In general.
Okay.
I mean, there
Okay.
are moments of high maintenance.
Yeah.
But overall, I'd say no.
No? Okay.
There
All
are
right.
there are certain things that are high maintenance, but as an overarching idea, no, that's
Yeah. Okay.
not the case.
And then here comes Erin and Rebecca into the studio.
You're way more high maintenance than me.
I am very emotionally high maintenance. People think you are much more high maintenance than me, but the
Not at all.
reality is my emotional high maintenance is off the charts.
Yes. It's
I
not
like-
just emotional. There are other things.
Next time we're on the air, I'm going to wear my sweatshirt that says expensive and difficult.
Yes,
which is
which-
my favorite sweatshirt.
Which you sent
to
me a
wear.
picture and said, find this and order it. So I did.
So I just like to take a moment. I'd like everyone to know that we record at Rockvox, that Scott is the absolute best producer on the planet. If he can deal with both Rebecca and I, he can deal with anyone.
It's true. It's true.
And we're very appreciative of him, and we're very thankful for the things he does, having the water out and our cute little earphones out. And we just love Scott.
This is our favorite part of our week.
It is our favorite part.
I know. I know.
And we just love spending it with Scott, too.
I know.
So can we just take that moment? Thank you, Scott. Yes, good clamps.
look at
That was
that.
good clamps.
Oh, my God.
That was a good use. That was a good use of an audio file. So that is how we're starting.
Love it.
Today, our topic is empathy and vulnerability. The same, the different, connected, interconnected. Do you have to have one without the other? All the things empathy versus vulnerability.
Okay.
But I might have a surprise for you that I didn't tell you about before we got here today. I see it on your face. I see your eyes are
Because-
closed. Your eyes are closed?
Yeah, because your surprises go anywhere from like nailed it.
Yeah.
This is so
Yeah.
great to
Yeah.
my worst nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I think I nailed this one.
Oh,
I think
do
and,
you?
Scott might also be in on it. It's fine.
Oh,
It's fine. But
He's dressed as a police officer, by the way.
who?
Just kidding.
Our
The
surprise
male stripper.
or- oh.
The male stripper we got.
Oh my God, you want to talk about making you uncomfortable? You would
I-
run on.
would die.
You would
Straight
run
up,
out of here.
gotta go. Oh my God, I'm getting uncomfortable. Oh my God, would not like that.
So I have a surprise. So you know that I'm on a podcast group on Facebook.
I didn't know that.
So I'm on a podcast group on Facebook.
Okay,
And it's called Find a Guest, Be a Guest. And I joined it before I even had any idea we were going to be on this
our
podcast.
own host. Okay,
And so every so often I go in there and people will post, hey, I'm interested in being a guest, or hey, I'm looking for guests. And I'm scrolling the other day and I stopped dead in my tracks.
Stop it.
With some pictures.
Stop it.
That this man has posted. Now, you know me, I'm a feeler. I'm a feeler. So I immediately, when I see these pictures, I'm like, that's it. Done. Contact him. Boom. Boo-doo-doo, boop. Email
mean the
out.
man?
Yes.
The photographer or the Facebook person?
The person
Okay,
who
okay.
was interested in being a guest.
Oh, okay.
So I am introducing for the very first time the first guest.
Stop
that
it right
we
now.
have ever
We're having a
had.
guest?
We have a guest.
Should we show a picture?
Our first
What do
guest.
you mean?
I would like to show you some pictures.
I got him. Here, look at the screens.
Oh, you.
Who is that? Stop it right now.
And
I can't. Oh my God.
do you get it?
Yes, I'm so excited. Please bring in.
Wait
for
a minute, he's on the phone?
Oh,
What's
he's
his
coming.
name?
I'm going to tell you all the things.
I gotta keep it together.
Welcome to our very first guest ever. on the More Love podcast, Greg Halpen.
What? Did you lie to me about what we're talking about?
No.
We are going to still talk about that.
Same topic.
Oh, all right. I am all sorts of. This is nailing it. Nailing it for sure.
I'd like to pull up the pictures for you so you can also look at them.
Oh my God.
Greg! Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I am even better now after listening to you both because you got, I can't. I just can't.
Greg,
But
this is my
can.
favorite part. Greg, have we ever met?
No.
No. Have we ever had any conversations outside of maybe 4 emails?
Not a conversation.
No. I saw your pictures on the podcast site and I thought to myself, there's something about this man's soul that I need in my presence.
100%.
I need to speak to this man. I need to know all the things. We have so much to talk about. I am so happy that you are here with us today. So you have to start, please, by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what's your story, what qualifies you to talk about topics of empathy and vulnerability and all the things. I have so many prompting questions, but let's start with you. Tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. I listened to, I don't know, you guys are hilarious, I have to tell you. It's you. I just have to
sent him
say
our
first,
stuff?
there's an SNL show called back in the 90s with Anna Gasteyer and Molly Shannon. They had this skit where they did a talk show and they're like, you guys sound more sophisticated, of course, but it just reminded me of that.
I love
you guys are like,
that.
oh, yeah, beautiful,
you.
beautiful. So sorry, I digress.
No, we love it. We love it.
So I'm a creativity coach as well as a performance artist, solo performance artist. And I live in New York City where it's very apocalyptic because of the smoke.
Yes.
And yeah, so that's kind of where I am right now. I'm, really enjoying my life as a performer. And yeah.
What is a creativity coach?
I work with creative people who are creative, whether they're an artist, whether they're a performer, whether they're a home organizer. I help them with mindset problems in terms of creative blocks.
Interesting. So in order to allow for more flow, allow for more creativity and authenticity?
Yes, because I'm more interested in working towards the trauma end of things. Like if you have a mood disorder, let's say, and you are just, you're a creative person and you want to do something with your creativity, but you constantly get lost with whatever, depression or anxiety. So I help them kind of navigate through that.
I love that.
Yeah. So they can tap into their truth, into their authenticity.
I've never met this man,
I'm
Rebecca.
dying.
Is this a perfect?
I feel like we need to bring out the tarot cards.
I know.
I brought some.
You did? Oh my gosh, she's going to love that.
And a pendulum.
Of course you did. So Greg, I want to tell you this quick story. My sister-in-law is an art therapist. And for Christmas 2 years ago, we decided that we were not going to give each other presents, but instead we were going to commit to spending one day every single month in her art therapy studio, literally just creating whatever it was we felt like creating. And I would never really consider myself a super artistic person. I would say that I, have some good ideas and I
know who we should ask if you're artistic.
Who?
Chris. From the Paint Your Own Pottery place.
I can't. Whatever. Chris. Whatever.
She was very,
we're not going to ask
she was
Chris
very
anything.
judgy when she would look at your creations.
Chris is from one of those paint your own pottery places where they have the pottery and you paint it. And every time I would paint something, I'd be so proud of it. She'd come over, she'd look at Rebecca's and be like, wow, that is so incredible. I really love what you did there. Then she'd look at mine and just walk in the other direction. And I'm like, whatever.
Every time.
We're supposed to embrace all people's creativity, whatever. So no, we're not asking
That's right.
Chris. about how she feels about my creativity. Anyway, back to the art therapy story. We would just create. So one time I'd create a wreath. The next time I would create something else for my house. The next time I would just stop randomly at Joann Fabrics, get a whole bunch of stuff. And, you know, because she's an art therapist, she has every single piece of glitter, button, fun tape, you know, everything you can possibly imagine. You ask for the most random thing. She's like, oh yeah, drawer over here, upper right-hand corner, second one down. And you're like, I cannot believe that you have a brown paper clip because that's exactly what I need right now, right? But when you talk about being a creativity coach, something that brought up for me is it was when I started to tap into my own sort of sense of creation and my desire to create and to see myself as a creative person, not just in I like to paint or I like to do watercolor or I like to quilt, right? But essentially to create in business, to create in making this podcast, to create the life that I want to live and to find those sort of outlets of creativity and be in that flow. I have really started to embrace parts of my life and my personality that were not accessible to me prior to that. Can you speak to that? Does that resonate with you at all?
Absolutely. It's magical when that, it really is magical when that happens, when you're just open to trying something new, such as like what you did in the studio. And I can relate to that because I have a strong background in musical theater and singing, but still for a long time, I was just really lost in terms of like what I wanted to do with my creativity. And the more therapy I did, because therapy was a huge thing.
Yeah, love it.
And the more I just dove into it, the more of myself started coming out, and the more like these talking on video, and it was just really difficult for me. And now I'm just like, it's like stream of conscious easiness. So there is a lot of value in anyone tapping into some sort of creative thing, whether it's a hobby or something real, professional. It can definitely loosen up a lot of really cool things. Absolutely.
You're a super creative person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you like to create in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
You like to create your crafts on a budget.
Mm-hmm. Or not on a budget, but yeah.
I hated that coffee filter wreath you made for the front door. But other than that, I feel like you've been really spot on in a lot of the stuff that you do. Do you also find that you connect with different parts of yourself through being creative, or is it different for you?
No, because I think that at the end of the day, that is who I am at the core. I always go back to, when you would sit around and do icebreakers and things like that, or when you meet new people, they would say, if you had a superpower, what would it be? And every single time I felt so stupid because the only thing I could think of is I want to make everything beautiful. And I felt really okay about that, but other people were super judgy because I don't know. But for me, I like to take things and elevate them, and that in whatever way, whatever that is, anywhere.
Like you have a base, and then you want to take that base and you want to improve upon it.
It's always got to be extra. Always.
Yeah. Well,
I know.
Yeah,
you
we're
know,
real clear about that.
You know that.
Yeah.
I love extra.
You
Extra
do?
is-
Oh, besties over here, you guys.
I mean, it has to be. You have to elevate. You can't. Yeah, you got to elevate it. It's just, for me, there's an element of fun and flair to anything. And if you don't, it's like romanticizing your day. If you're able to do that, you're able to get through mundane tasks and those kinds of things. So it's just who I am as a person.
You're extra too, Greg?
I'm extra and high maintenance a little bit too.
Oh,
so
you're in good company here. No big deal.
Yes. Yes. But I'm high maintenance in a good way. I mean, in a way that's, well, whatever. I can't sugarcoat it. I'm just high maintenance.
You don't have to. It is what it is. And there's no problem with that.
I love that.
I own it.
We accept you for
I love that.
where you are.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that came from you, Rebecca.
I know.
Good job.
I know. In my heart, I do accept people.
I know you do.
I just don't like
I
to
know.
I don't want to tell them.
Right. Right, but you just did. Look at you
I know,
taking a risk.
I know.
Isn't that vulnerable? Dun, 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 boop, boop. Here we are, right at today's topic, empathy, vulnerability. I'm really excited to talk about this. I've done a lot of thinking about sort of the interconnection between empathy and vulnerability. And I know when we talked, Greg, just about different topics or things that you thought you could really add some extra flair, if you will, to that this topic of empathy and vulnerability was one that was really intriguing to you. So I would love to use that as our jumping point to just dive in to the conversation of empathy, vulnerability. You made some really good points in one of our early conversations about the role of empathy and trauma and how trauma can potentially impact our ability to be empathic. But does that also impact our ability to feel vulnerable, right? And so we could start in a million different places, but I wonder if I just set the framework associated with sort of defining empathy, defining vulnerability, if maybe we can use that to jump from there. So in my initial searching for empathy, the best definition that I was able to find is the ability to understand and share feelings of another human being, of another. And the word vulnerability more describes a state of being where one is potentially exposed to being harmed or attacked or hurt in some way. So for me, one was this state of being, this possibility. We can either put ourselves there or not. And the other is essentially this essence of connecting with another human being and being able to feel for that particular individual. So with that as our basis, Greg, lead us off. What for you is the connection, if there is one, between empathy and vulnerability?
Well, I think, in my opinion, to be empathetic or to have empathy is you have to have a certain level of feeling comfortable with being vulnerable. You know, if you're going to take in somebody else's feelings or somebody else's experiences and kind of meet somebody where they are, you kind of have to be, there's a certain level of vulnerability there.
Is that an openness? Is it an openness? Is vulnerability sort of an openness to understanding the experiences of others?
I think it's a factor in it. There's, like you described in the definition, vulnerability is part in like a survival mechanism to know when we're going to be harmed or hurt. But there's also a part that, like right now, we are all being vulnerable in sharing some intimate things and laughing. And like there's this unspoken trust that's happening. So like, to me, that's what vulnerability means. But if you're experiencing something traumatic or you have untreated trauma, being vulnerable is a whole different thing. It's a whole different story. Same with empathy.
Trauma
Because you
impacts.
trauma. Because you have to, I don't know, like if you are trauma triggered, it's really difficult to take in somebody else's feelings and experiences, because sometimes we can react to that or lash out to that. But if we are grounded more, we can take those other experiences, other people's experiences, and just kind of relate to it as a human being without feeling threatened, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're thinking of trauma as a lens, right? So there's this lens that gets placed on how we see the world based on the experiences that we've had. And when trauma is a part of that equation, it is going to impact our ability to see through that lens to what that other individual may be experiencing. Do I have that right?
That is perfect. I mean, that was beautiful. I love how you put that.
You're sweet.
Well, I really 100%, because I recently went through hypnotherapy a couple of years ago and, uncovered a whole bunch of trauma that I didn't realize was trauma. And that was significantly eye-opening and helped me understand why I am the way that I am. And at the end of the day, my one of my most favorite memories as a child was actually my trauma. And that played such a significant role in relationships, with how I view the world, with how I allow myself to, I have built such an armor from such a small child because I don't like to feel things in my body, and I feel them all the time. And I don't like it. So I purposely shove it down, keep people at an arm's length and try not to engage because it just doesn't feel good. Specifically, like I wouldn't watch commercials. I still don't watch commercials. I can't watch certain types of movies. I can't.
Is it because you're so empathic that you almost have to create this barrier that keeps you from over empathizing with people because it will flood you?
But I didn't know that.
Got it.
I didn't know that until I did the inner work and really dove deep into why it was the way I was. And what's interesting is a lot of the symptoms or pain I was feeling in my body wasn't actual sickness.
It was a side effect associated
100%.
with that trauma.
And once I was able to name that and start to compartmentalize and not over identify with other people, and like all those kinds of things, it allowed me to start practicing being nicer.
I love that dramatic pause before you said.
I was trying to think of a word.
Nicer.
What's the word?
Do you love that she said being nicer and then looked over at me like, yeah, right? Is that
Right.
No, was it? Would you say I'm nicer? It's okay. Okay.
It's just so much
And what
easier to
does
be
your
closed off.
What does your t-shirt say? You like murder shows?
Oh my gosh, yes. That's our other show we
Me
have.
too.
We have another show.
Oh, you do?
Oh, you do?
Well,
Well, it's a show that we
it's a made up show.
do.
It'll be 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, after this one takes off.
We
Do you want to say the title into the microphone?
Well, no, not yet.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to set the show. I'm going to set the stage. We travel a lot together, and we sit in bed in our pajamas and watch murder shows. And within the first couple of minutes, we both look at each other and say what exactly is going to happen, and we're always dead on. And so we've decided that that's going to be our new show, and it's going to be called Busted by Babes.
I would totally listen to that.
You would? You could have a guest
Absolutely.
appearance on that too.
Yeah, we have a lot of comments.
Yeah.
About
we know immediately, no joke, within 1 minute and 30 seconds, I'll turn to
Immediately.
her and I'll be like, it was the dad, and that she didn't fall down the stairs backwards. And she's like, I'm aware. I'm absolutely aware that didn't happen.
100%.
Yep.
You love
Yep.
murder shows too?
All about Dateline, Minds of a Psychopath.
Yes.
Like those are like
Yes.
Well, you might have to travel with us, and we might have to do a little phone call.
I love it.
let's do it. Let's hook it up.
I love it. I love it. So, to the trauma aspect, so I'm hearing you say, Rebecca, that through the process of hypnotherapy, you were able to find the ways in which trauma was a really big player in your ability to be able to connect with and relate with others. I'm hearing you say, too, Greg, without going into too much detail, I'm hearing you say that maybe that's part of your experience as well. Is that right?
Absolutely. I've experienced childhood trauma as well, but I carried that into my life for a long time untreated. So, you develop these life skills that become maladaptive and they just don't work for you. Like when you're a kid, you take on these skills because it's protecting you from whatever the trauma is. It's protecting your brain. It's protecting your nervous system. But as you get older, those skills just are not, they don't fit anymore, but we can still carry them. So I can completely identify with that.
Yeah. I'm thinking about a therapy form that is very near and dear to my heart called IFS, Internal Family Systems. And essentially, I won't be able to do all of the research out there justice, but I think what I love the most about it is that it talks about those childhood things that we used to do that were helpful to us, those things that may no longer serve us. But the difference in IFS is that instead of us saying this doesn't serve me anymore, and let me work really hard to figure out how I can just kindly move it out of the way so that I can continue to move forward with my life. IFS says, why don't we look at that protective mechanism, right? That firefighter, that maladaptive behavior, and let's embrace the heck out of it. Let's look at it and say, thank you so much for being here. I see what you've done for me. I see how protective you've been of me. I'm so thankful for your presence in my life because you care so much about me. And also, is there a way that I, core self Erin, can stand beside you so that we can work through these together, as opposed to you having to lead the way and lead the charge for both of us? That reframe for me in that form of therapy is the most holistic, loving, and beautiful aspect of working on yourself and recognizing how absolutely beautiful those parts of yourself were, because all they're trying to do is keep you safe. And don't we all just want those things that keep us safe to keep keeping us safe, right?
But I think you made a really good point about, I wrote the word safe down. That's part of why I don't want to be vulnerable, because I don't ever feel safe.
You don't want to feel vulnerable.
No, I can't.
Or you
I
have
don't
a hard
allow
time being vulnerable because you don't feel safe.
And it's not safe as in you might laugh at me. That's fine. Or you might judge me or whatever. I don't know how to describe it. It's just, I don't feel safe because then it makes me feel those things I don't want to feel internally.
Is it not feeling comfortable feeling those things, or is it that because you feel those things so incredibly deeply, you have fear that when you're in the pits of those feelings, no one is going to be there to be with you?
That could be
in that moment.
That could be it. Very, very much so.
Do you relate with that at all, Greg?
I do. I think it can be both. Feeling like nobody's going to be there, as well as feeling like that trauma is going to be relived again, or you're going to, like there's a famous book out called The Body Keeps the Score. I can't remember who wrote it, but it's about how the trauma it's in your body. It's there.
Trapped.
And what you talked about, the little person, like the little boy or the little girl inside of us who just wants to be heard and seen and loved. I can identify with that completely. That's like, I did a lot of that kind of work in my own therapy. Like I needed to touch base with a little Gregory, little redhead Gregory, just, so it's cool. Cool stuff.
I love that. It's very healing for me to have this conversation, because I feel like for me, vulnerability is something that just comes very naturally. It flows, right? I am very much someone who is comfortable in that moment being wherever I am and owning that that's where I am. So I'm trying to figure out what some of those differences are for me in the stories that you're sharing. And for one, I think I have probably little T trauma, not bigger T traumas, right? Some smaller things that happened or ways that I wasn't seen. I was a highly sensitive kid, right? So good luck hanging with that kid. You're very much alone in those types of situations. So I have some of those experiences, but throughout the course of my life, I've always been very reinforced by just wherever I am, and putting that out there has a tendency to draw people in, to bring people closer, that it's just this natural sense of it is okay. And so this concept of reinforced vulnerability for me is interesting, because I think I'm able to be vulnerable and open to a certain extent because it's been a comfortable experience for me. And I'm hearing you both say that there were times in which that vulnerability felt incredibly uncomfortable, and not only just uncomfortable, but it also wasn't resolved. right? So it was like, oh, you're in the pits of that vulnerability down there? That looks really uncomfortable. I got to go get a hamburger, right? And you're like, I'm still down here, guys. Yeah, this is still uncomfortable, right? Which then created this little barrier that said, we ain't going down that hole again, right? We're not doing that again. And then maybe you tested and maybe you tried it again and maybe you went to a little bit further, tried the vulnerability again. And then you're like, well, that still didn't feel great, right? And so I wonder if we can talk a little bit about reinforced vulnerability and how that reinforcement throughout our lives plays a role in our ability to be connected with others.
Yeah, I was asking through a video that I made about creativity, and I was asking, like, what's the difference between a person who has been thriving creatively since a young person into their adulthood, and another person who has taken a long time to blossom, like a late bloomer. So I'm always like, what's the difference between that? And sometimes I think it has to do with how we were raised, like, what's that thriving person? Were they taught how to self-soothe or manage their emotions, as opposed to the other person who might have experienced some difficult times in childhood? So I'm always wondering about that.
Yeah, it's a really good
what
point.
For you, like you say, you're really comfortable with vulnerability. Like, so what, like your experiences growing up, it sounds like you were supported in a way.
My off the top of my head thoughts on that are, one, I had a father that was incredibly supportive of be myself, make my way in this world. You can be confident, you can be capable, nothing's going to get in your way. You do you, right? And that confidence played a role in probably allowing me to take some risks that maybe without that confidence, I wouldn't have felt comfortable with. The other part for me is that I'm a very linguistic person, right? I love listening to what people have to say and then putting that into words that make sense for me and seeing if that resonated with the other person. And I have met with a lot of success in that because it's very rare for me to be so completely radically off in my assessment of, oh, I heard you say this. Is this what I heard? Right. So very often people will say, absolutely, or that was I love how you put that, or that makes so much sense. Right. So there again is a confidence booster and also just a positive reinforcer, right? Because that's my way to connect with you. That's my way to show you, I see you, I hear you, I'm with you, right? And what we're talking about. So those two things I think play a big factor. And then oddly enough, I grew up in a family that was not overly emotive, we were not an I love you family. We were not a hugging family. We were not a, oh my God, great job. We were very much a cerebral family. I'm very proud of you. You did an excellent job on such and such a task. We were not the family that said, how do you feel right now about that exam that you just took? Was that great for you? Right? It was like just we weren't a very feeling oriented family. That surprises the heck out of people when they hear that, because I am so incredibly, ridiculously emotive. And I would have to say that as a highly sensitive child, that was such a missing component of me, right? Of what I needed as a little girl. I needed to throw a fit and run to my room and have someone come into my room and rub my back and say, it's all right. Just feelings are fine, right? What I got, to no, fault of my parents, because they didn't know any better, was Erin's throwing a tantrum, let her go to her room, shut the door. When she's ready, she'll come out and then we just won't talk about it, right?
Which I think is fairly standard.
Pretty typical. Absolutely, right?
Child rearing.
Absolutely. But then when you're this kiddo who you talk about feeling things so deeply, right? I mean, I feel like I'm just this live wire walking around all the time, just feeling. To not have that realized, to have a space to talk about that when I first got into actually my master's program, and I switched from psychology to counseling, and I went to my very first interpersonal relationship group, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best experience of my life. There
terrible.
are 12, right? This is your
my
worst
God.
nightmare.
Yes.
There's 12 people all sitting around, and the whole reason we're there is to talk about how we feel about what's happening in the here and now.
I can't. No. I can't.
Oh my gosh. Seriously, it's like the three of us. Let's pretend we're in a group, right? We're sitting in the group. We're all having this group, and we're just all present. And we're like, can we all just be present with our feelings right now? Both of your eyes are hilarious. I cannot. Both of you are looking at me like I want to run off of this podcast right now. I got to set the stage. I love it. So we're sitting here in this group, right? And everyone's arms are crossed and we're looking around. And then out of nowhere, someone says, I'm noticing a level of discomfort in my body right now. It feels like, my stomach is starting to hurt. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm feeling the need to say something. And then someone else pops up and they're like, I noticed that about you and I hate it. And you're like, wow, thank you. What is it about that makes you hate it? And the person is like, why can't we just be present in this moment? I always feel like you're the one to break the silence, right? Before you know it, we are 60 minutes in to this interpersonal relationship session where everyone is talking about their feelings and they're interrelating and they're connecting and they're ticked off and there's resolution and it's beautiful and it is just this amazing experience. And it was in that moment, Muhi Shakur from SUNY Brockport's Self and Society class, that I was like, I'm home. I am home, right? I cannot believe this exists in the world. So you have this confidence mixed with this positive reinforcement, mixed with this desire to see people, mixed with the fact that this can exist in the world with a group of people and you can feel closer to them at the end. And I didn't have that in a majority of my relationships. I would say almost any of my relationships, pretty much up until you, honestly.
Which is ironic.
It's
But
very ironic. That for me sort of allowed this experience with why vulnerability and empathy just sort of became a really active and important part of my life.
So I have a question. You always used to tell me that criticism doesn't matter unless the person giving it to you matters. You're like, we only care
Oh, absolutely.
if it, right? And so does it work with vulnerability and empathy? Because if I don't like you, and I
Do
don't
you-
care about you,
Is the question, do you have to be vulnerable or do you want to be vulnerable?
right? Or not just the vulnerability, but the empathy too. Like, I struggle with having empathy or being vulnerable, I guess, with people or situations that I just genuinely think are insane, or I don't like the person, or it's very clear to me that they can figure their stuff out and it's annoying. And so it's very difficult to maintain that level of seeing people when you're over it,
Interesting.
at least for me.
Greg, love the head nod. How does that relate with you?
We are apparently,
I know.
I know,
I saw his picture and I'm
Yes.
like, boom, bestie. Yep.
100%.
Yep. You can relate with that?
That's where I filter all of my empathy and vulnerability out through my characters. But I can relate to that. But at the same time, like I'm at a point now where I do feel empathy, and I do, and I'm okay with vulnerability. But the thing is, it takes me a little while to get there. Like I need that bridge of trust for me in order for me to feel those things. And it's more conscious now rather than, if I'm going to be vulnerable, I'm going to do something like go eat a lasagna or something because it made me feel really uncomfortable. Stouffer's lasagna, the best.
Where unlike you, it's just, again, it's the live wire radiating all the time. You just see people for where they are, see people for who they are, always meet them where they're at. And I am always confused. I'm like, why?
That's so interesting.
Why are you talking to them? Why do you feel the need? She'll just like walk away from me. I'm like, here we go. It's some rando who she heard a voice and she's like, they need me. It's like the Batman signal. And you freaking go over there and do the voodoo.
The voodoo you do so well.
It's true.
You don't feel compelled to do that at any point unless you genuinely already have a connection and care for that person?
No. I do. Again, it's a feeling thing. If for whatever reason my guard is down in that moment and that particular situation, person, experience, whatever is calling to me, I may consider putting the toe in. You,
Yeah, we're all in. We've dove.
all in,
Yeah.
no matter what, to the point where sometimes it's like that never-ending story when the horse is going down in the quicksand.
I can't.
And I'm like, I can't even give you a lifeline because you are in too deep.
I can't. That specific part, you want to talk about little T trauma. It's that part of the never ending story when he goes in the quicksands. My mom would pop her head out of the kitchen and be like, he comes back at the end, Erin. Don't forget, he comes back, because I would be a disaster.
But see, that's me all the time if I allowed it.
Yes. So that's my question for you too. Is it the case when it comes to vulnerability that you have been, through the course of your experiences, just taught that vulnerability equals lots of feelings, vulnerability equals unsafe, vulnerability equals difficulty, and so you walk around at times with at least half, if not 3/4 of a wall up, because it's unsafe to be walking around with any degree of that wall being down, because you are going to be flooded with whatever feelings are coming your way. Versus for me, the wall is down. I walk through, for whatever reason in my mind, it's Target, right? I'm walking through Target, this wide open book, ready to embrace whatever energy is coming my way, because I'm confident that whatever is thrown at me, I have the ability within myself to get us through that particular situation. I never place that power in the hands of others, which is a wonderful thing for me and a terrible thing for me, right? But I'm trusting that whatever comes my way is completely fine and I will manage it, because I'm so confident in my ability to be able to handle and maneuver the vulnerability and empathy as it comes. But is it the opposite for you too, that because you haven't had those positively reinforced experiences, or because you yourselves aren't so comfortable and confident in those vulnerable moments, that you haven't flexed that muscle enough to know that if you're walking through Target and something highly emotional comes at you, that you won't in that moment just freeze and be uncomfortable and be like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling all the feelings and now I don't know what to do with it?
A while ago, I was like that. I would say I am more comfortable now, and more, especially as a performer. Like I have to be able to access emotion and being in the moment. It wasn't always like that, but I think up until maybe 2-3 years ago, over the past couple of years, I started coming out of this shell of all of that, where feeling vulnerable and feeling empathy and all of that is definitely a lot easier, but still there's that trust, it's more like, it's not like a wall, but it's like a gate that I'm in control of opening or closing when I need to do that.
That visualization made a lot of sense to me. But I feel like your gate is one of those wrought iron gates with slats and like, you know what I mean? Where mine is, it's so weird. Mine is in the restaurant, that refrigerator door that's like big and steel and has a suction. That's my gate. And it's strong. And I am keeping inside a specific temperature, because if I open that, I am like going.
I know.
I am.
No, I'm loving it, because when you said he has a wrought iron gate, I'm like, absolutely, and it's black.
Yes.
And they're the square ones.
Yes.
And they are, yeah.
Yes.
Very clear.
And
That's
it's
what
very
his gate
clean.
looks
And
like.
I know. And mine, I mean, did you see the refrigerator, or was
Yours,
that?
yeah, it wasn't a refrigerator for me. It was cement. But it
That's
was
even-
cement that actually is cut out, which I think from a scientific standpoint is not going to make a lot of sense, but that's okay because we're in visualization mode. And that essentially it's on these hinges that get to be opened.
Like a dog door,
But it was
on the bottom.
No, it's the whole door is allowed to open, but that thing's heavy.
Yes.
It is heavy.
But that's
It's not like
why-
we're just opening it and closing it every single day. Like it takes a while.
But that's why I liked the industrial refrigerator, because for me it's I need to maintain even temperature. And when you open that door and the heat comes in, we are now melting, spoiling. Things are happening that I do not like. Smelling.
And do you trust yourself? Are you the one opening and closing the refrigerator door?
No.
Stop.
I don't want why do you do this to me?
Stop. Well,
No,
that's
I am never
ironic.
opening and closing it.
Really? Someone else's hand?
Yes.
Interesting.
That's the suction piece. And that's why it's on. It's not my refrigerator at home that when you leave it open, it just stays like that. And then the alarm has to go off no, it's the industrial one that's like on a hinge. And then it has to suction close. And it's got to be real hard to open it. Somebody has to tug it.
You are the refrigerator. You are not opening the refrigerator.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm 100%.
Greg.
So there's like a laser sensor. As soon as those families come in, it hits that sensor and like it closes.
Yes.
And Greg, are you the gate or are you standing at the gate?
I guess both.
No,
Sometimes
I'm
it's
going to tell
both.
you what you are.
You better tell me.
You are
please.
standing at the gate. You are standing
Yes,
at the
okay.
gate because it has the holes in it. So you are it's like a filter. You're allowing and whatever, but then you also have the ability to open, but he is controlling the gate. It's one of those gates with the
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's like a lesbian looking
push
thing.
You got to push the thing down, and that's what opens it. And everyone's like, I can't get this thing open, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
The funny thing is, I was the cement too. I was a while ago. For a long time, I was the cement. So I think like part of the work you do is like it's possible to develop, a bounce back. That's
How?
I believe that.
you
How
know,
did you go from
Yeah.
cement to wrought iron?
years of therapy, medication,
Yeah.
to be honest,
Yeah.
and lots of mistakes, lots and lots of really embarrassing events and mistakes that I've had, life lessons. I guess that's the only way that anyone can learn, maybe, is you keep falling off that horse and you just have to keep getting back on it, even though you're just perpetually falling off of it.
But had that always been your experience? Because my guess is you'd fallen off the horse many, many times before. Did you always just get back on? Why was this different?
I didn't always get back on. I'd kick the horse. I would just resist getting back up there. I'd fight it. I'd lash out or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's different now it's like I don't see it as a horse. I see it as a little boy who just wants to go for a horse ride and, and he's has a hard time getting on the horse. So I help him up there and I hold his hand as we're, not galloping, but lightly, whatever horses do, across the field. So that's kind of the difference. But I relate to that cement, definitely. I was like,
I have those little goosebumps. When you just talked about yourself being on the horse and trotting around this field with yourself as this horse, that kindness, that compassion, I'm with you as we go through this just really spoke to me. It's really, really beautiful. It's so clear to me that you've done a tremendous amount of work to get to a place where you feel comfortable opening and closing that gate, and that the gate doesn't always need to be open, that there's great pride associated with at least even being in a place that's wrought iron and that isn't cement anymore, right? And I hear that and I feel that, and I love the fact that this process of creativity has allowed for some of that flow to assist you in getting more to that gate that can be easier opened and closed based on your own accord, you know?
Yeah.
I really love that.
Exactly. I just started blossoming, opening up creatively as a performer, like all the photos that you see. And like, I don't know what happened, but with all this work that I've done, something happened. And I don't know, I just exploded with all of this amazing creativity and ideas that I've always fantasized about.
And there wasn't one thing that you could point that to. It literally was just almost like an unburdening of what had happened. And in this one moment, just being in this place where this creativity started to flow.
Oh, I think I just can pinpoint it to just a lot of pain, I guess, a lot of emotional pain that I experienced that I just wanted to figure it out. Because, you know, it's funny because on one hand, you have all this emotional pain. And on the other hand, you have this strong desire to create, to tell a story. But that pain just keeps getting in the way. And I'm like, I'm going to figure this out because I want to be a star, whatever that means. So I just took the time to figure it out. And eventually it just clicked. I mean, it's hard because I'm 53 and it's taken me like 30 years to get to this place. So there's like, some people can get there sooner. Some people it takes a longer time.
I'm really proud of you, Greg.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'm proud of young you on the horse. I just have this overwhelming sense of like how awesome it is that you're able to show that it doesn't matter what that experience has been like, with the right determination, with the right desire to put your heart in a different place, that it's possible to get there. And I think that's beautiful. I'll end by saying that something as I was going through the podcast group that made me stop on that picture. Initially, it was, this guy's different than everybody else on this podcast, right? The next thought was, this guy's going to connect with Rebecca really well. I don't know why. Maybe it's the bandana. Maybe it's just the many different faces, right? But what really touched me the most, Greg, is when I said, could you please send me a couple images of yourself, you know, over email? And I'm scrolling through the pictures and I'm laughing and I'm smiling. I'm like, this is going to be so great. And then I get to your last picture and it's you. It's just beautiful you in your true, authentic form. And I have to tell you that has stuck with me in the week and a half that we've had between our first conversation and here today, because it's this nice little reminder for me that we are all of these things. We are creative, we are goofy, we are fun with bandanas, we are all of these wonderful things that make people stop. And at the end of the day, that last picture is this pure picture of just Greg. And it was in that picture.
Make me cry. I'm getting a little emotional. That's amazing.
I love that. I'm telling you, and now you're going to make me cry. And Rebecca's over here doing her nails.
Rebecca's like,
I am not doing my nails. Do not tell people that.
You're like, where's my box of wine?
Yeah, right. Yeah, she's over here drinking. Yeah, it's so true. But the reality is, when I got to that last picture, I thought that's who's on the show, right? That is, I know that wonderful Scott will put the picture up of you for everyone to see. And for me,
that is the person I felt absolutely most connected to and most excited to be with here today. So I am so thankful that you were our first guest on More Love.
Me too.
I'm so thankful you were with me to
sure.
surprise Rebecca because she had no clue. This
No
was
idea.
like one big covert operation.
Well, he's also going to be our
wow.
first guest on Busted by Babes.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes. You will also be with us in the queen size bed watching Busted by Babes. Yeah. When our next show airs. And if people want to get in touch with you, which I know they will, because after today's session, I do not, I call it a session.
You were
After
such a
today's therapy session.
You were such a
It was actually it was very therapeutic.
Yep.
I felt
I love that.
therapized.
I love that. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, Greg, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you as a creativity coach?
They can go to my website, which is creativevisionaryincubator.com, which has everything on it from, I also have a podcast that's coming out soon, my program and everything in between. You can go to my Instagram too, which is the Moody Creative 53.
Oh, Moody
doing it.
Creative. I know, absolutely.
doing
We're
it
not
right
even going to, I know you're doing
Yes.
it literally right now.
You better accept my friend request.
I will. I posted a couple of new characters there too. There's a Preacher Man character that
can't wait.
I wanted you to see.
You are one of the characters, just so
Oh,
you know.
geez.
Yeah, you are the next character, just so we're really with all the extra. Make sure there's a lot of glitter in there, Greg. Lots of glitter. Thank you
I have to
for
tell you both sound like, you transform me back to my small town in upstate New York. With
Where are you
just
from?
the humor.
That's
and the
where we're
kindness.
from, Greg.
We live in upstate New
really?
York. Where are you from?
I'm from Oneida, Syracuse area.
Stop it.
Yeah. Where are you all from?
I grew up in Baldwinsville, New York. I know.
I finished high school in Governor.
Stop it. My grandparents were from Governor.
Wow, I can't
What?
believe this is amazing.
I'm telling you,
Yep.
get out the tarot deck. Get out the tarot deck. I love it so much. Yes.
Wow.
We remind you of upstate New York.
You just have this. You guys
Accent?
have this I don't know.
What's
That
that
too.
mean?
I'm like, are you guys Midwestern? And I'm like, no, this must be.
You didn't know where we were from?
He knew
I
nothing
didn't.
about
Oh my
No.
God,
us.
we live in Rochester right now,
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm from the Saratoga area.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I grew
that's
up
my-
in Syracuse. Crazy.
So how we're gonna do this? We're gonna do his card.
Yes, we're going to have
Okay,
them
hold on. I
call
gotta
one
shuffle
card.
them, and then you're gonna tell me when to stop, and I'm gonna pick.
Are you open to a very quick one card tarot experience? We have
I
to ask
am
for
very
consent.
much.
Oh, sorry.
Absolutely.
Ask for consent.
Yeah, we can ask
They're
for consent.
they're mermaid tarot cards.
Oh, he loves that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
Let
Yeah,
me, you
mermaid
want me to
thing
shuffle
going
through
on
until
right
he
now.
says stop? Okay.
You're gonna shuffle through. Yeah. All right. You go ahead and tell her when.
Stop.
Okay. This is and this is the present. That's what we're doing. Yes. You got the King of Swords, ambition.
Ooh, ambition.
Okay.
Yep.
Ooh.
And what does that mean?
It means King of Swords. This man is clever and is often a strong leader in a professional career. He's a great strategist with charm and ambition, but can exert pressure too. As he's impatient to succeed. He can be relied upon to offer calm, logical judgment. An additional meaning is that legal issues need your attention right now.
I just got released from prison. Okay, so
Hilarious.
that's behind me.
Hilarious. If this king comes up as the U card in a reading, take a logical approach. This is the time for mental agility rather than emotions.
Wow, that's so spot on.
It says for the advice piece, look to the facts before you make decisions.
Oh, wow, I love that.
Love it.
I always let off of emotion before. Now, you have to know the facts. You have to know That's beautiful. Thank you.
Apparently, this is a new part of our show.
This is Scott, you're next. Scott, you're next.
Poor Scott. Leave poor Scott alone. He's had a hard enough day with us. Greg, thank you for being with us today. This will not be the last that you hear from us. We definitely will have you back on the show again. Love your energy. Thank you for being present with us. And until next time, everyone.
I loved that.
Me too. Isn't empathy amazing?
Well, we're amazing. I don't know about all this empathy stuff.
That's fine. I accept you wherever you are.
Oh, God.
I love you.
I love you too.
And if you love us, please like and subscribe to More Love, the Power of Empathy podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
See you next time.